Hello bakers! I'm going to show you how to get the perfect consistency to flood a dog treat. Now, when you purchase a Pastries for Pets icing or even a frosting, there are directions on the bag. And the directions are really just a guideline to get you started, to point you in the right direction, so you kind of will understand how much water to start with. The reason why I say that is because the water amounts can be different depending on whether or not you're using a powdered food coloring or a liquid food coloring or even a gel food coloring within your icing mixes. Obviously, if you're using powder, you're probably going to add a little bit more water than you would if you're using a gel food coloring. So what I'm going to do is use powdered food coloring, and we're going to mix up some flooding consistency so you can see how I would do that without even looking at the directions, just so you get a better understanding on how much the water goes such a long way with our icing products. So this is an icing, and I'm not even telling you which one because the same rules apply for all of our products. And I'm going to add, I'll put this over here, I'm going to add our natural sunflower yellow food coloring to our mix. And I'm just gonna dump some in here. Oops, might help if I get a little bit on the spoon. Ooh, that's a lot. Oh, let me stop there. Okay, a little of the yellow definitely goes a long way. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the yellow aside, but I'm going to mix the yellow in a little bit before I even add water. And the reason why I'm doing that is because some of the all natural food colors, and you don't even have to use ours, but I'm just saying in general, some of the powdered food colors sometimes have a couple of clumps that clump up, and you just want to break them up before you add water. If you accidentally add the water and there's some clumps in there, that's okay. You can still mix them in. It's just a little easier to mix them when you're adding it powder to powder. So I went ahead and did that, and now I'm going to take a tablespoon of water and put that in there. Normally our directions will say to add about a tablespoon to maybe a tablespoon and a half to half a cup of icing mix, okay? I'm only going to demonstrate the icing right now because the frosting I'm going to do in another video a little bit later. All right, so you can see that the powder definitely needs more water. That's a lot of powder, so I'm gonna add a whole tablespoon. If it was almost there, I would probably add maybe a teaspoon more water. But to get things moving along, I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up for you. And it's still gonna need more, but that's why I'm doing it this way, to show you how little even a tablespoon or even a quarter of a teaspoon would make a big difference to this. And honestly, as you do this, you're going to get used to it and you're going to know how much water you need to add each time. It really does, it comes a routine after a while. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1 teaspoon. And that's going to do quite a bit. I'll show you that. And the way to test it is to raise your spoon. Now I know I'm going to add a little bit more water to this, but let me show you as an example how this comes off the spoon and back into the icing. It's still kind of laying right on top of the icing. So this actually would be a really good flooding, a detail consistency, but we're focusing on flooding right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and only add probably about a half a teaspoon of water more. And then you'll see like how it makes such a difference. And you can see how this is kind of still pulling up and it's not really going back into itself yet. So that's what we want. We want it to go back into itself. So I'm going to add, this is just a quarter more. So I'm gonna add 2/4 teaspoons to make a half a teaspoon because that's gonna go a long way, like I said. And I'll show you right now. So I'm gonna mix this up. And if I added too much water, I can always go ahead and add a little bit more of the powdered mix into here. And if I add too much water, I'll know because there'll be a lot of air bubbles, and that's okay, but kind of drive you a little bit nuts when you go to pop all those air bubbles. See how the flooding consistency goes right back into the icing like that? That's what you're looking for. So this is the perfect flood consistency. Now what I'm gonna do is I have a cup here and I just put a icing bag right into the cup. And the reason why I did this was because I only have 2 hands, and you're gonna see how I'm just gonna scoop it right in. And it's really just to hold my bag open. People do have fancy containers nowadays with, you know, with 3D printers and everything, but this is just a regular drinking cup. So I'm just scooping it right in. I know you might not be able to see that because my big bowl's in the way, but you get the idea. I'm just scraping it right in. I'm gonna move the bowl out of the way. And what I'm gonna do now is just take this right out of the cup. I'm gonna put the cup aside. And I also have a little dog treat bone here for us to decorate. So what I'm doing is just taking my bag, trying to squeeze out most of the air, and then I'll put it over the bone for you. And then I'm just twisting the bag, you can see. And you can do a couple things here. You can knot the bag with your fingers. You can take one of these little tiny rubber bag clothes, I don't know what they're called, doohickeys. And you can just put it right through the hole and pull that. You can even take a chip clip. And I'm gonna just take this and move this down just to get it out of my way. Normally I would just cut it right off, but you can always just take a chip clip to seal your bag as well. So I'll show you that. There you go. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna flood this, and I'm going to cut a hole right in the bag. I'm going to put a paper towel just to show you how small. I'm gonna put it right on top of that so I don't accidentally get the plastic little tip over onto my dog treat. I'm gonna drop it right on the piece of paper. So it's just a hole in the bag. I am gonna show you how to use this with tips at some point as well, but this is a tipless bag. And all I'm gonna do is flood the back of this dog treat. And I'm doing this, I'm just kind of outlining the dog treat itself. And I'm doing this really fast because I don't want you guys to be here all day with this demo. But if you flood the dog treat like I'm flooding it kind of continuously together, then you're gonna have a smoother dry when you're done. And there's really no air bubbles in this right now, so that's a really good flood consistency. And you can see that it's drying flat as well, so you know it's gonna look really pretty. And it's really easy to accidentally put a little too much water. And if you did that, you could just take a toothpick and pop the air bubbles, or a scribe tool. And you just really just take this and you look around and you're like, okay, there's an air bubble, there's an air bubble. Another thing you can do is take like your scribe tool or your toothpick and shake it a little. That might help pop bubbles too. I don't have any bubbles, but if I did, that would be the perfect way to pop them. So that is how you make the perfect flood consistency. I will catch you in the next video to see how I make a consistency for the details.